Natalie here, and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be making a clear acetate coffee card and then an added bonus card. So I am using the Sip, Smile, Repeat sentiment, and then also the Lovely Layers coffee cup and the add-on swirl. So I've pulled out a bunch of different colored cardstocks that I'm going to be die cutting out of, and then also my acetate. There's a lot of different acetates on the market. This one I believe is from Spellbinders. I also like Hero Arts. There's a lot of ones out there that are very good. So I am cutting my cup out of, this is for the warm one, this is the bonus card. I'm cutting it out of ivory. And then I am cutting its sleeve out of a craft cardstock. For the acetate card, the cold version, which is going to be the one that we want to be able to see through, right? That is a couple of different colors of cardstock, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So I wanted to... You obviously don't need to create it as a clear... Like, you don't even need... like the clear portion over it in order for it to look like a coffee. But I really wanted to be able to have that acetate element because I think it's super cool. And you could do this as a shaped card. I did a video where I turned these into shaped cards before. But this time they're just going to be regular cards with that acetate element. And so we're going to be doing some experimenting to see what works best. So for the little stopper and the straw, I chose to go with a blue. I knew that I was going to be using one of the cardstocks out of the Homestead Hues paper pack. And so I picked the blue because I love blue and also because it's in the background. Then for these swirls, you have the large base, and then you have several other swirls that kind of lay on top of it, and then there's one that has like this drip. I didn't end up using the drip, but I will show it to you so that way you can see kind of how everything lays out. And then it also has this whipped cream, which I will not be using for the hot one, though you could. I will be using it for the cold. And I chose to cut them out of colored cardstock, even though I don't normally do that. I chose to do that to kind of cut down on the amount of time it would take us to do all of the things and add the shading, because I am still going to add some shading. I'm just going to do it a little bit differently than I normally do, just to have like a little bit of a simpler version. So this is, you can see at the bottom of that straw, there's like a little spot that's cut out of it. That's because I was using another piece of cardstock. I knew that you were only going to see the top part of my straw, so I didn't worry about that. So I just wanted to point that out because I don't want you to think that's part of the actual die cut. It's not. So now we're going to get into cutting the acetate. And a couple of things to consider when you're cutting the acetate is sometimes, because it is a little bit thinner, you do have to run it through more than once. I ended up running mine through twice. You can also put some cardstock behind it to help it have a little bit more like depth, so there's a little bit more something for the dies to kind of bite into. And then you can also try running it through kind of like a diagonal. Eventually, I ran mine through twice, and then I just kind of had to almost like pop them out, almost as if like it was a perforated edge, but I didn't have any issues and it came out just fine. And then here is the whipped cream and the like the hand warmer part of that. And then I went through and I just die cut everything else. That we saw me kind of tape down. And here I'm just going through and I'm separating where all of the things will go. So here is the swirls kind of laid out on top of each other. And then there's that kind of like caramel drip. Alternatively, instead of putting it on top, you could also put it in the back, or you would just use it by itself. I ended up going with, like, see here, you could see how the coffee would be lighter and the drip would be darker. Does that make sense? Or this is it kind of in the background, just adding another color. I ended up, like I said, not using it just because I felt like it made it a little bit more complicated than what I was going for. And then here I'm kind of layering everything up. there's the, the two pieces that sit on top I cut out of white, and then everything else, like I said, was out of ivory. And then all of those parts, I cut out the card, like the coffee cup base, and then the lid, like the lip portion of it. I cut all of those out for the cold coffee as well, but they're all out of acetate, so obviously they're a little bit difficult to see. Here I am adding a little bit of shading, just with a large ink blending brush. This is one of the background brushes, and I find that these work best for kind of giving the softest blend. So I'm adding that to the ivory. I'm going to use a little bit of the gray. Now, mind you, I'm not picking up any ink. I'm just using whatever, my brushes are well seasoned. So I'm just picking up, the brushes and using whatever is left on there. But if I was like, I don't have a seasoned brush and I have to start from scratch, I would probably use brushed corduroy, very lightly. I would, kind of, tap off as much excess as I could. And then I would also use probably hickory smoke or pumice stone for the white. And then, so that's that. The bonus card comes together really, really easily, because there isn't, the regular Be Creative honeybee glue works just fine for this. And I did choose to cut out one of the little bonus stopper things, which there's like a pumpkin, there's a heart. They're super cute, and so you can customize the little stopper. So I chose to go with the pumpkin, because I know, even though everything is holiday right now, Thanksgiving has not even come and gone. So there's still room for the fall things. And then here's those white pieces. I did those a little bit lighter, and this is going to create a lot of depth without us really even having to add any shading, because we have the ivory that is a little bit darker, so it kind of sits in the background, and then the top layering piece of that lid that is in white, so it kind of sits up. Here I put the stopper in first, glued it into the back, and then put it onto the card, onto the base. So then that way the little bottom part of the stopper is hidden. And then I'm going to add my little pumpkin right to the top. He's a cute little guy. But like I said, it's not terribly complicated. You could probably knock out a lot of these. I think these would be really great for like Secret Santas, like if at work, or, if you have a Bible study or a book club or something like that, and you wanted to do like little coffee gift cards. These would be great for that. So I am going to go in, now that it is all adhered, with just a W1 and a W3, and just add a little bit of shading kind of around the edges. This is such a limited amount of coloring, but it really does so much to add like a ton of dimension to this cup. So even if you are like, I don't love coloring or whatever, I would encourage you to try this. Even if like you don't have to use alcohol markers. You could use colored pencils, or you could use ink blending, just to add in that extra depth. I also use some darker blues to color the stopper and the straw, just to again get a little bit more depth. I think it is probably a bit challenging to see because it's not too far outside of like the actual color of the stopper, but it's enough in real life that you can see the difference. Okay, so now let's get into the clear card experiment number 1. So I went in with just a clear double-sided adhesive. If you go into the Googles and say, like, what's the best way to adhere acetate, this is the thing that it recommends. So I went in and I tried that. Now I do want to note that I lined, like I put the adhesive down on all, like the whole sides. And then I started building up my little swirl layers. So I'm not putting this where it's supposed to go. And I'm just being honest about that, because I wanted my whipped cream to sit higher, like into the top of the cup. And if I adhered the swirls where they're supposed to go, the whipped cream would actually be sitting about halfway down my cup. And I wanted it to be a bit higher to fill that out a little bit more. So I just moved it down. And so it's going to give me like the darker coffee at the top, but that's fine. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. And then I will just add more adhesive right over top of that. So obviously the problem with acetate is you'll be able to see anything because it is clear. So it's like, how do we hide that best? So here I used that double-sided adhesive and I pushed it into the sides. And you don't want to go overboard. Whatever adhesive you're using, like you don't need to use a crazy ton of it because we're trying to make sure that, it can't be seen. So just enough to keep it together. And so here I put it on, you could still very clearly see it. I tried like that, how with clear tape, like if you rub your fingernail over top of it, you can get it to sometimes be a little bit more transparent. So I tried that. It worked a little bit. So then the next thing I tried, I was like, okay, well, how can I mask it? If here's me just kind of like messing around with it. How can I then like cover up what you can see of the adhesive? I'm putting on my whipped cream, and it does have like a little slit in that top portion of the lid, so I can just slide that behind there, and then I know that my straw is going to go all the way down. So here for this little lip of it, I am trying the regular Be Creative Honeybee glue. This worked ish. You could still very clearly see it, but it does, it does stay for the most part, but you obviously can see it. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to try what happens if I color the adhesive with an alcohol marker. Will that then help it to blend in? And it was looking pretty promising in the beginning. And so, I went over that, and it still was fairly visible, and then the part where I got the marker like onto the background, it was really, really visible. So I took that off. So here you can see it's taken off the top layer of cardstock. I am going to go in with my adhesive eraser. This is it's specifically for erasing adhesive, and if you've never seen one, I would highly recommend purchasing one because it is a very small price point, and you'll only use it when things go awry. And so it's well worth it. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to re-glue all of my swirls. And then I'm going to go to what I'm fairly sure will work, which is glossy accents. So glossy accents is it's basically a clear glue, and it's used to add like shine to embellishments and things like that, but it's also an adhesive, and it dries, to a hard, clear, shiny finish. And it also boasts that it can glue several things. It can glue metal, it can glue plastics, it can glue all kinds of things. And so this is ultimately what ended up working for me. Can you still see it? Yes, but it did hold them together, which is what I was going for. So then we're going to come up with a couple of other ways that we can kind of mask it. But in order to adhere the acetate to the acetate, the best one that I found was, in fact, the Ranger Glossy Accents. And I like having a little bottle of that anyway, because I like to add the gloss to different things, especially now that we're coming into the holiday season and, more is more. So I mean, for some of the pieces, like this piece right here, was this extra layer of piece even necessary? Honestly, I don't know. But I did put down the glossy accents, and then I put a little bit of weight on it by weight of my Misties, and then I let it dry for a little bit. Now, for the sentiments were created with the intention of it being kind of like a barista with the handwriting. So they have little hearts and smiley faces, and it's adorable. So for this one, I did have a great day with a little smiley face. That like hand warmer section is textured with embossing. So I did go back in with a black pen just to make sure that it was solid. For your acetate, you can't just stamp on your acetate with any old ink. Okay, pigment inks won't dry on it, dye inks won't stamp well on it. If you want to stamp on plastic, acetate, vellum, things like that, and you want a good result, you have to use an ink like StazOn. It's a different kind of ink that is, hold on, I'm going to see if I can find it so that I can read it to you. It's for use for plastic, metal, ceramic, laminated, paper, coating, leather. Like basically it's going to stamp on anything because it's a solvent-based ink and it dries very fast. It also, your ink pads dry out very fast. That's why you saw that it had like a protective coating over it. So like you take that little plastic piece off. I had no issue stamping with this. It is dry. I'm running my finger over it right now and nothing's coming off. So because of that, I have the jet black, which is what you saw me stamp with, but I also have the white. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I could use this to mask a little bit of that adhesive by creating kind of like the frosty condensation that you see on the outside of a iced coffee or an iced drink. So I use my little finger dauber and the white to kind of dab it on around the edges. And honestly, that did work really well. It did work really well to kind of create that little frosty look to it. And it did dry very quickly. And again, it stayed put. I am, rubbing my finger over it and it's not coming off. But then in order to create kind of even more texture and kind of navigate the eye away from the places like along the middle where I glued the different layers of the lid together, I'm going to add like little water droplets by again going in with the glossy accents. And so I'm going to do little drops and drabs and stuff kind of around the edge, also, all the way up through the lid. And this adds more texture, but also, again, kind of leads the eye away from that adhesive. I think it worked pretty well. You guys will have to let me know what you think or if you feel like you'll be able to use any of these tips in your card making. Alternatively, I didn't do it with this, but you definitely could. You could create a pattern on the acetate, like maybe cut out a bunch of those pumpkins or a bunch of hearts or something like that, and that would distract from it as well. But I really wanted you to be able to see that swirl. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that this helps you with your clear cards going forward. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.